Okay, so yeah, so just let's start off. Let's kick off with it, doing a little bit of review from part one of the last time we did our webinar. And in part one, we talked a lot about figuring out your niche and knowing your three uniques. So you have something that you can, it basically figuring out your identity, how you want to identify yourself and your practice so you can take that to market. You can take it and share it and utilize that information to set you apart from the other also RANs, and then give you the material to push forward with creating a campaign, right? So, and we're going to touch some more on that stuff a little bit today, but I'm moving more into brand storytelling. And this is a huge part of marketing today. Before we get into this, I also wanted to just touch and kind of pique everybody's thoughts on what traditional marketing has been. So I want to put it out there, and this is a trick question, I'll tell you right off the bat, but I'm going to ask, what is the number one marketing tool that's been used in the past for getting new patients? Anybody want to take a stab at what they think it is? No one's going to be brave and try a shot in the dark.
I would say just in-house referrals from patients would be the main marketing that dentists use, aside from something that you would hire out.
Okay, so I that's a like really, it's not the right answer, Nate, but it's a really, really good guess. And I think that's, you can arguably find evidence that states that that's probably the most successful marketing that you can do is in something in-house, internal, and that's very traditional. Nick and I were talking today just about how a dentist he knows that practices in another city doesn't do any traditional marketing. He only does word of mouth. So I think that's a good guess. Anybody else want to take a shot in the dark? Again, it's a trick question, so this is awful. Then
I'll take a stab.
Okay.
If it isn't, hold on a sec, we're changing over car spots here. If it isn't insurance referrals, straw would be appreciated. Can you hear me at all? We're switching over.
Yeah. So Jason, you hit the nail on the head. It is insurance referrals.
I know I haven't. Yeah, which isn't really marketing, it's just desperation.
Yes, exactly. So that is what traditionally, if you look at what's been done in the past to get new patients into an office, it's selling your soul to an insurance company, and in trade for your soul, they promise you new patients. So, and that's been done for years. And the promise is always that, yeah, we'll get your patient base up, but it's always, this is a different webinar, a different discussion altogether. It's to what end and to what cost? What does it really end up costing you by doing that? And so I think that's important. One of the reasons why it's so important to talk about true marketing and how we can utilize it in our practices. And again, I'm not a marketing expert. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is I'm regurgitating what I've learned from other people that truly are marketing experts, because I want everyone to have a good understanding. The purpose of this and the point of having this webinar and this webinar series is not so that you can go and become a marketing expert. It's so that we can all have an understanding of marketing to the point that when we hire a marketing company, we can keep tabs on what's going on and see if what they're doing is successful, and then utilize some stuff that's free. There's a lot of free stuff that's out there that you can be doing at low, it doesn't take a low investment with high return. And so that's the point of all this, is to give us a good basis of understanding of how marketing works within our profession. It's not to make us experts. It's not to turn us into marketing gurus, but rather to be able to understand things so that we can better monitor what's being done for us and how it's being done. Okay, so having said that, let's jump into this thing called brand storytelling. And again, we've talked about in the past, we've talked about the strategy versus campaign. We talked about these things. I'm not going to go over them again. But we talked about the strategy. We're going to start moving into campaign. This is going to be the bridge. brand storytelling is the bridge that links up strategy with your campaigns. So a campaign now consists of money and effort to share with potential patients your marketing strategy. So now you're taking your uniques, your niche, all that stuff, and now you're going to take it to give to potential patients. You're going to put in front of them so that they'll come and see you and come to your office. So there's social media posts, there's ads, there's brand storytelling. You can do specials, education, promotions, introductions, volunteering, sponsorships, all this kind of stuff. These are what make up different campaigns that you can do. So it's not just social media. You can do it in a lot of different ways. But we're going to focus on this bridge, this idea of brand storytelling. Okay, so I've just outlined a couple of things that are components of successful companies. These are things that successful companies do, how they market. Okay, so you know who they are. You know what they do or what they sell. It's not ambiguous. You know right away what they're doing. And you recognize their brand by their branding. Think about Nike. Think about McDonald's. You know, these are companies that are recognizable around the world instantly simply by their logo or their branding. You don't need to hear anything else. They've done such a good job of that. And you can go down the list. Just think of different companies that have done a good job of their branding, right? So you also know by the reputation, Nate, you hit on that. Reputation's a big deal. And I'm not going to get into Google ads or Google reviews. That's part 3. So I won't get into it very much on this, but reputation, Google reviews. That's a huge thing for sharing your reputation, having others build your reputation and letting them know that what you're doing and that you're doing a good job. Okay. And are there any other ones? I'm going to put it out to you guys. Are there any other components that make up a successful company or marketing strategy used by another company or techniques that they use? Any other thoughts on that?
I would just say that I think also it's frequency, right? That you're seeing these things repetitive or often.
There's actually there is a component to that we're going to get into in part 3 as well. Yeah, you're exactly right. Jason, what were you going to say?
I think one of the biggest challenges that we face when we start to develop a branding and messaging campaign, you're referring to companies that have very deep pockets for their marketing. You know, I think for us, what we have to try to do is accomplish that, but on a budget, using resources that have broad outreach, but definitely fit within the marketing budget of a dental practice. I know guys who, simply all they do are full mouth reconstructions. They have 10, 15, 20 cases going at a time, and they generate a lot of revenue. But their marketing monthly budgets are $100,000 a month. A general practice or a surgical practice is going to struggle to meet that. So hopefully we're going to highlight maybe some of these marketing tools, foundational, tools that we can use to do what you guys are talking about, but in a budget that a business our size, a small business, can afford.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that those, companies, obviously those giant corporations, they have giant budgets because they're seeking a huge population, where we're going to search for a finite population. Again, we're going to get into that in part 3 a little bit more, but yeah, that's a fantastic point. And we're going to hit on some stuff that addresses exactly what Jason was talking about, is how do we make it financially plausible, right? So are there any other thoughts on this before we move on? Any other components that you guys can?
Dan, I'd like to chime in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Yeah, sorry, I'm driving. But so I have an acquaintance whose company does online what is it, online reputation monitoring for people.
Hmm.
And I was chatting with him, and he told me, he said, if you take a population and you poll them, he said, the least trusted person or least trusted job in the world is a car salesman. Only 3% of people trust their car salesman. And he said, if you take the most trusted individual in the world, it's a doctor. And Dennis will fall into that category. And it's still only 49% of people trust their doctor. So only just less than half of the population trust their doctor. But he said, if you poll them again and ask who they trust, he said, suddenly at Google reviews, 85% of people trust Google reviews. And so that's a huge marketing, free marketing thing that we can emphasize in our practices, is to get people to write honest Google reviews. And he said, if you have all 5-star Google reviews, people aren't going to trust you either. He said they want to see imperfections in your Google reviews. And the thing that they trust the most is how you respond to them. So if you have a negative Google review, somebody gets on there and really bashes you, it doesn't mean you're going down. The important thing is how you respond to it. So he said 85% of people trust Google reviews, and a little bit even more when you have some negative Google reviews.
Yeah, they want to see that you're human. Yeah, I agree. So again, this is great foreshadowing and promotion for our part 3 of the webinar, because I'm going to get a lot into Google. We're going to talk a bit about how those search engines work and why Google is such a powerful tool for people like us. But yeah, I mean, that's a big deal. Reputation is huge, and utilizing a third party to promote your reputation is massive. We can tout ourselves all day long, but if someone else does it, it carries a lot more weight. So I love that. Thanks, Steve. That's a excellent point.
Hey, Dan, I might add one thing to your list. I think that seems to be a big strategy, especially with bigger companies, is humans are big on familiarity. So familiarity by facial recognition, I think that imagery makes a big difference. And I'll give you an example. In this issue that I was faced with, hiring in my small town is a bit of a challenge, even though I have reputable practice. I finally decided to after struggles, I took our hiring process out of my management team's hands and I turned it over to my marketing team's hands. And my marketing team took our hiring process and branded it with landing page that had, a video of our office. It had interviews of members of the team that we were hiring for. I gave them a tour of the facility, and then I also uploaded a video of myself, welcoming, interviewees to come in and interview. And as soon as we did that, it changed everything. And the hiring process, I had more candidates than I had time to interview, and it really changed it. But I think the familiarity of the space, the faces, the team, and I think that's true with your community as well. When they know who you are, and if you're not photogenic or videogenic, then hire really great people with familiar, kind faces and let them be your spokespeople.
If you have a face for radio, is that what you're saying? Then you should get someone else's face.
Yes.
I love it.
Oops.
Awesome. This is good stuff, guys. Thank you. So let's take a step back and move forward by talking about more branding. So you guys know your identity, but have you taken the time to formulate your story? Do you know your story? Do you have a story? And that's kind of an interesting thing to think of as a dentist, is like, what do you mean? Do I have a story? What are you talking about? Each of us has a story of how either we became a dentist, or how we ended up in the town that we're in, or how we ended up getting involved with our practice, or whatever it is. We have a story, and it's probably more interesting than you think it is. And so this brand storytelling is an opportunity for you to share that story. So the purpose of brand storytelling is to get others' attention. So they've done studies on this, and what they've found is that storytelling is the best way to get people's attention. And it bakes information into their memories, and it can resonate emotionally with them. They've shown it over and over again that storytelling does more of this, where if you're trying to sell a product, if you're trying to like talk someone into something that you are offering, it doesn't do any of that. It doesn't create any emotion at all. So they don't care. They might want it, which is different, but you can create that through your brand storytelling as well. So again, do you or your practice have a story? Sharing these on social media is especially effective. These can be done in long form, short form. There's different ways that you can share this story, and social media is a huge way to do that. We have a little shot there on the phone of that's our EA stuff, and each of those photos has a story that can go with it. So it's not just a photo, there's a story that goes along with all of this stuff. So finding a story, whether it be your story, a patient's story, your practice's story, something is highly beneficial. Okay, so let's get into the what versus the why. All right, well, the what is something that's self-explanatory. It's in the sense that we're a dentist. People know, okay, if it's Bemis Family Dental, they're going to know that you're a dentist.
Which is a great office.
Which is a great office. Darn right it is. But again, going back to part one of our marketing webinar, what are you doing to differentiate yourself from the others? So the what becomes a little bit gray in that sense. You can also address the what through direct response, like Google Ads. It's just putting yourself out there and say, hey, we're a dentist and we do this, this, and this. We offer cosmetic, we do implants, we do, whatever, crowns in a day, whatever it is that your office does. But the what is subject to who pays the most. So as you guys know, and this alludes back to what Jason was talking about, you can spread the what really easily by just paying more money and putting your ads on different forums. You can put it on different social media networks or formats. You just have to fork out more money than the next guy, and you can be on every billboard in the state, So, but that's just giving the what. That doesn't give the why at all. So the why is harder, but it's much more meaningful. And the why is going to help to define your brand or your branding. So you'll create brand equity by telling your story. So I highly recommend this book called Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. He gets into the whole book is basically about the why. It's a marriage of, because really marketing and sales are joined at the hip. It's a bit of a marketing book. It's a bit of a sales book. But there's a lot of really, really good information in there that he's done a ton of work in this and is super successful at sales and marketing. And so he gets in that. We're going to call upon some of his information later on in this webinar. Go get that book, get it today, read it. It's an easy read. It's not a hard read. And there's so many good little nuggets in there that can help us as we're creating this stuff, especially with brand storytelling. All right. The other cool thing about the why is it's much less susceptible than the what. All right. So when we're talking about the why, what the heck are we talking about, right? What is the why? So the why would be, so why go to you versus some other doc? Or it's also the why is what makes you different. It's what makes you unique, it makes you stand out, and it makes you memorable. Okay, you need to convey, and I use this one, so you need to convey the perspective of why Wood River Dental Care. So our office, how do I convey the perspective of why come to us? Okay, so this correlates heavily with your three uniques, your niche and your guarantee, what we talked about in part one. All right, so if you don't have those things, you're going to have a hard time explaining the why. But on the flip side, sometimes it's beneficial to figure out your story, to figure out what your niche is, to figure out, I'm going to say niche and niche, all different ways, because I don't know how to say it the right way. But you're going to figure out, it can help you to figure out maybe what your uniques are. and why or what your guarantee might be. Okay, so you need to think through, how am I going to put all this into my story? How, if I already have those formulated, how can I work those into my story? How is that part of what makes, Wood River Dental, or whatever? What makes Dr. Nelson, or Dr. Hill? These are things that you want to be thinking about, and how can I go ahead and create a story that's meaningful to me? Because if it's meaningful to you, you'll be able to convey it in a way that's meaningful to others. They're going to be able to resonate with that. All right. So you're a dentist versus why you are a dentist is an example. So you're not just a dentist, because if you're just the dentist, that's the what, and you're going up against everybody else that's just the dentist, then why do people care? So why you're a dentist makes a big difference. If your story is because I wanted to make a lot of money and buy a boat, you might need to be thinking about a different story, maybe a patient story, maybe something else. But if it's why because you wanted to help people and you love the interactions you had through helping others, and it enabled you to do humanitarian work, and it allowed you to open up, one of the things that Nate does that I really like is he offers a scholarship to his local high school. So it allows us to do this other thing. So maybe these are the things that resonate with you, and it's the why behind why you became a dentist. Those are important. Those are impactful. So tell your story. Kind of a fun fact, people remember stories 22 times more than facts and statistics. So what about your story is meaning and impactful to others? Again, so why not? So this picture, I lived in Japan. For those of you guys who don't know, I think everybody knows, I lived in Japan, and they have this food there, and it's called natto, and natto's disgusting. I don't care what Leighton says, it's disgusting. Leighton likes it. I don't know why Leighton's not from Japan. He wasn't raised on it, but for some reason he likes it. So Leighton lived in Japan as well. It tastes like cigarette water. And if you don't know what I mean by cigarette water, I mean, if you're on a construction site and you have, everybody knows the 7-Up cup or the 7-Eleven cup that's been sitting there for 18 days that the construction guys have been flipping their cigarettes in, and you walk by it and you smell that, that's what it tastes like. Guess what? Nobody cares if that's your favorite food. Sorry, Leighton, I'm not being to pick on you. It's not going to matter to most patients. So you need to find something that is meaningful. So
It's not that bad.
Don't find something arbitrary. Don't put superfluous information in there. Find content that's meaningful and impactful. So be careful, try to be, and I know this is coming from me, this is probably the craziest thing ever, but try to be succinct in your storytelling. I don't even know how to do that. So, but I'm going to say that you guys have to do it. So call me a hypocrite, right? So there are 3 questions for your marketing story. As you're building your brand storytelling, as you're going to go tell a story, there's 3 questions that will help you to formulate this story. So what experiences or relationships have shaped you? So if you go into Russell Brunson's book, he talks about how everybody in their story, there are, he calls it the hero's journey. And in this hero's journey, there's always a guide. So think about, have there been guides in your life? Someone that they're having this relationship with this person has helped shape you, has helped give you direction, to help you understand. For Luke Skywalker, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's his guide. It's Yoda. So these different people that make the story now interesting, and it gives you an emotional connection with something that someone can relate to. Oh, I had a similar situation. This person helped me through X, Y, and Z. Next question to ask is, what gives you energy? So I'm going to get into these a little bit more in just a second, but think about like what gives you energy every day through the year, whatever. And then what do you see? And I'm going to explain, what do you see? What the heck does that mean? So going back to what experiences and relationships have shaped you. So talk about that journey, talk about that path and how you ended up where you are. Find common ground that allows you others to relate to you. And talk about those turning points and crossroads in your journey. Jared does a really, really good job of this when he talks about EA. And he had a very real crossroads where he was burning himself out early in his career and thought, oh my gosh, and I don't mean to tell your story, Jared, but he was burnout, came home one day and straight up told his wife, he's like, let's just move to Tonga. Let's just sell everything we got. And he was dead serious. He's like, let's move to Tonga. I'm done. And she's like, haha. He's like, no, I'm serious. He was that burnout. And that was a big crossroads for him because something needed to change, and something did change. And I encourage you guys he tells his story on our EA website. And it's very impactful. And I think a lot of us can relate to that burnout feeling, just running out of bandwidth. But talk about that crossroads and how it shaped you and what happened from that crossroads. And then talk about what was impactful and why. Why did it matter? All right, so what gives you energy? So speak to your passions. You know, if there are things that we do in our profession that we're probably not that passionate about, but there are things that we do in our profession that I guarantee we're passionate about. So speak to those things, talk about those things that give you energy each day, that make you excited to be in the profession. You know, what gets you up in the morning? How does that relate to what you're marketing to? You know, how are you going to be able to put that in a format that, oh, the patient's like, oh, that's awesome. Dr. So-and-so loves to do dentistry because of X, Y, and Z. That gives them fulfillment. It makes them excited about it. If you have those things and you speak to them, your energy and your excitement about it will be conveyed. You'll be able to express it. And this is why it's such an easy way to tap into other people's emotions. If you're feeling them, other people will feel them as well. So going back to this idea of the why, right? So I put a couple of examples here. These are why ads, not what ads. And you can see like these are things that give people energy. So these are marketing campaigns that they've tapped into what resonates with somebody else that gives us energy, makes us excited, that also comes from that company. So I love the Corona one. Yeah, it's a beer ad. Does it say it's the best beer on the planet? No. Does it say that it's the best deal on the planet? No. Does it say anything about anything? No, not really. But then it does. It says a lot. It says a ton in a story with a single picture and a single phrase of find your beach. For me, I resonate with that. I don't drink beer, but I want to be on a beach chilling. So I get with that. And I resonate with this ad. It's actually why I picked it, even though I don't drink beer. I'm not going to go buy Corona, but I stopped to look at the ad. It stopped me to go, oh, okay, what is this ad about? So, and really that's what we're trying to do, is that when people are scrolling through all their social medias, what's going to get them to stop and say, what is this? What is this about? So we need something to get our attention. And it's going to be something that we relate to usually. All right, the second one, again, this is a why ad. This is a lifestyle ad. And it's obvious, like it's in the tiny corner, you can look down there and there's that little bitty banana boat bottle. But I like to golf, and I just love how it like conveys like, oh, I'd rather be out golfing. And again, it's enough of a like, what the heck is it talking about here? What am I looking at? That it makes you stop and look at it, right? So again, it's a lifestyle ad, it's a why ad, it's telling us a story. So this is going to help people connect on a different level than any kind of what ad ever will. All right, so what do you see? So this is storytelling from your perspective. So I see dentistry as fill in the blank. This is going to be different. You ask 10 different dentists, they're going to give you 10 different answers, which is good. Okay. I see Wood River Dental Care doing, being, accomplishing, whatever. Fill in the blank right there. Right. So I see myself as, okay. So Brian Harris, who does Smile Virtual, again, I encourage you guys to check that out. He is really, really good at this component. And this is one of the things that he has. This is all it is. It's a before and after, has his name, and it says building confidence. If you go into his website, he says building confidence is what I do. So he sees when you say I see myself as, well, he sees himself as someone who builds confidence. And then he markets to that. And he has a story that goes along with it. Don't know Brian at all. I've never met him, but I like to give kudos to those who do a good job. This is a really good example of this. So it's also an opportunity to express a patient's journey or story, like I just talked about. Maybe you've had, and this is, and I put that with this particular photo because you can now tell this patient's journey. Rick Sherman has been posting some stuff. He's done some full mouth rehab cases that I've loved his social media stuff. And it goes from this like horribly broken down dentition to a full mouth rehab that looks beautiful after. And he does it very similar to this with the before and after. And but what's cool is there's an opportunity to tell that patient's story. And there are, you know, I don't want to get into some of the implant companies that are doing that really well because I don't really like those companies, but you get the idea. There's an opportunity to tell a story here that is impactful that someone else can resonate with. Okay. So some tips and some pointers. Before I get into this, is there any questions or comments that anybody has? I kind of ran through that last little bit.
So one of the things that's on my mind, Dan, is I know how to tell the story of like what would be my story for Bemis Family Dental, but I've got Reese Dental, I've got the River Oaks Dental now, and you know, it's like how would I tell the story of those if I'm trying to just keep them individually and not make it like one blanket brand and then just become a chain like everybody else, you know?
So
not that needs an answer unless you like got a great one, but that's what's going on in my mind.
yeah, and I think that that's worth addressing. I think that you're not alone, and I think that we've got people that are looking to scale and add practices. And how do you market to that? So there's a couple ways you can do it. If you're in that office, and I know you're in two of them sometimes. So if you step foot in any of those offices, you can tell your personal story. The other thing is if you've got, again, taking a step back, you can tell patient stories. You can talk about your associates' stories, your office management. You know, there's other people's stories that you can share that will be meaningful and impactful. So it's not always just your story, but you can pick it through your team. You can tell the team's story. You know, there's a lot of different ways that you can come into this to allow for something impactful and meaningful to others. Where it becomes tricky, Nate, is when you, like you said, you just acquired that third practice. So it's brand new to you, but why not share your story so that people that are like, oh my gosh, who's this guy taking over this practice? Why not tell your story so that they can have some trust into whoever's taking it over? You know, this is the guy pulling the strings. This is the guy that's in charge of it. That's still going to matter to other people. So again, finding your niche, your three uniques of those different practices and your guarantee for those three different practices. If it's the same one, that's easy. Then you just share that same story that you already have in place. If they're different based on the different communities that they're in, the demographics are different, then you're probably going to change up your three uniques, your niche, and your guarantee. So again, how you want to share that becomes really dependent upon what story you want to tell. But there's a lot of perspectives that you can tell. It's not just Nate Bemis, here's my story, unless it is. And again, you can take it in a couple different ways. I think that's a great, anybody else have any ideas on Nate's comment or question?
I had a thought on that, Dan. Is just, you know, his stamp of approval on his team. You know, you could very easily promote who you are and what you're doing by promoting your confidence in the team that you've established there, you know. Whatever your expectation of patient experience is going to be, you know, you've put this team in place to carry that out, you know, and giving them your stamp of approval, unless you're trying to tie them to you. Otherwise, you know, giving your stamp of approval in their confidence in carrying out your vision might be meaningful to the community that's attending there if you have any connection to the practice that way.
Perfect.
Both of you have great points.
The other thing, Nate, that you can tie in is you start to get reviews is, and again, I'm not great at this. I don't take near as many photos as I need to. So for you guys that are good with photo, and I know some of you guys are really good with taking photos. But before and after photos, if you marry that, again, I was talking about a patient's experience, is if they leave you, I know everybody's had that really long Google review, a very positive, glowing one. That is brand storytelling. That's somebody else telling a story about a positive experience they had in your office. If you marry that, if you happen to have before and after photos of that patient, and you can put that, you can promote that and create that story. That is brand storytelling. That is the why. That is the why. And the beauty of that is it's somebody else doing it for you. And if you have pictures that can go along with it, because that's what people stop for, is if they see something like, and again, I'm going to pick on Rick right now. I know a lot of you do full mouth rehab, but if you take Rick's pictures and he then marries that with, because that's what people want to stop. They want to see it. I mean, how many of us have, and it's not just because I'm a dental nerd. I love the time-lapse ortho videos. I'm such a sucker for those. I'm like, it's as good as a fishing show to me. I'm like, okay, I got to stop and watch this for a minute. But there's those things that catch our attention, and that type of thing is something that will have someone stop scrolling and look. And then if there's the story from the patient themselves explaining like what happened, that's a big deal as well. So again, I would encourage photo taking, elicit reviews. There's no reason why you can't ask patients to leave you a review. And then if you can marry those up, that's a big deal. Yeah,
Hey, Dan, one of the strategies that we use, especially for the reviewing system, is it's what we call a third party, first party storytelling process. When you're in the process of asking somebody to leave you a review, I don't know why it always felt a little bit like begging for somebody to say something nice about me. So I got in this habit of conveying to the patient, it's really hard for people to find help with this kind of problem. It'd be awesome if you shared your experience so others in your situation might find their way here. And that's been huge. It's a third party, first party. They're talking about you through their own personal experience. It's a great way of getting people to leave a review, because now they've found a solution to their problem. They now become the center of their own story, and you just become a solution to them and other people.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I had one other thought to go along with that. And Jason, you sparked the thought, is that I haven't done this myself. I don't think Jared's done it either. But I've seen it done, and it can be done well. It can be done not so well, but is to have patients tell their story on video format. To have people that when it's done well, it has someone that has had some experience with videography, and it's not just an iPhone. It's someone that actually knows how to shoot someone to make things look good in an environment that looks good. And then you would want to do it with someone who's not going to sound scripted or like they were prompted on what to say. But so when it's done well, it's really awesome. Again, that's brand storytelling. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? If not, we'll move on. So tips and pointers, a couple things to help out with brand storytelling. Again, read Expert Secrets. There's a lot of good stuff in here. I'm going to hit on two secrets that he had that are really important. And then know your audience. Obviously you need to know who you're marketing to. That seems like a silly one to have on there, but I mean, keep that in mind. And then how much detail do you want to give based on interest, time, event, etc. Again, don't go down some rabbit hole. I mean, I'm the master of getting on a tangent. Matter of fact, we have a button that's called the tangent button in our meetings. that Ryan and Jared have nicknamed the Dangent button. So, but I also understand that when you're doing brand storytelling, you don't want to get caught in the weeds. Decide what matters, what details matters, which ones don't.
Hey, Dan,
Yeah,
just one comment on what we were talking about a little bit before too, was one thing that Leighton does with the Google reviews and kind of this storytelling is during the morning huddle, they'll select people that they would like to request the Google review from. So like, you know, like Jason saying, if there's somebody who's had that good experience, or if you guys know of a patient that can do that, to be proactive of like selecting, like, hey, let's make sure we talk to so-and-so today, or invite them to leave a good review or share their story, right? Like selecting that as part of the morning huddle. I thought that was a good idea.
Leighton, can you speak to that a little bit?
Not sure he's on anymore.
Oh, he was. I think we lost him.
Yeah, that's why I thought he was on, but yeah, he does that in the mornings. So.
So great point. I love that.
Hey, real quick, in response to what Ryan just shared, one of my marketing people just brought this to me. We have a renewed emphasis on growth because of the new space that we're in. We went from a 6 operatory to a 13 operatory practice. Kind of shut down marketing for a while because there was no room for anybody, but now we're in a growth phase where reviews matter, and getting people to take action on reviews is even harder. So we just ordered them. I haven't even received them yet. I'd be happy to report on it later, but she's ordered these placard things that have the QR code on this really cool looking decorative plaque to our Facebook review source, our Google review source, and our Refer a Friend program, that when we ask people to leave a review, we can take their phone and just hit the QR code and it'll take them right to the spot where they can leave that review. Giving people access to that to walk out of the practice with on their mind, I think it's going to be real powerful for us. I thought it was a great idea. Maybe something to share with this group. When we get them, I can take a picture and send them. You guys can see what they are, but anybody's welcome to steal that idea. I think she ordered them off Etsy or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If you'll shoot that out once you get it, that'd be sweet. Okay, so any other thoughts before I move on? So some of the other tips and pointers here is that you need to learn to tell your story in as little as 5 minutes or as long as an hour, depending on what format you're speaking to. Honestly, for us, having to tell it in an hour probably isn't necessary unless you're getting interviewed with something. So, but the idea is that you've thought through the story well enough, you know it that well, that if you need to say it and you need to have an elevator conversation with somebody, you could tell that story in less than 5 minutes. But also that if you had a sit-down conversation, you know it so well, you could get into the details that are important. You can say it with the passion and the emotion that comes with your story. I actually put the wrong grade on here. You need to speak at a 3rd grade level. I put 4th on there. It needs to be 3rd. You want to speak to a 3rd grade level. They did an analysis of the last presidential debates, and it was interesting because, and I don't want to get into politics. I'm not saying this is the Republican debates. They did an analysis, and Donald Trump spoke to a 5th grade level. He spoke at a 5th grade level. Ted Cruz spoke at a 9th grade level, and Ben Carson and I can't remember the other one spoke at an 8th grade level. I'm just saying. But the idea is, and psychologists have showed this as well, that you need to speak to a 3rd grade level. It just makes it easier for everyone to understand. People's attention spans are already short, and the easier you make it to understand, the more likely they are to stay engaged with whatever you're telling. And then be clear in your message. Again, don't be ambiguous, get to the succinct details, the things that matter. You're going to hear that over and over again. And then share your epiphany bridge. So this is secret number 7 in Expert Secrets in Russell Brunson's book. And I'm not going to get into it too much. I just encourage you to go read it. But what an epiphany bridge is it's kind of that crossroads. It's the point in your story where it got you from where you were to where you are now. So that you had an epiphany and that brought you along to where you are now. Kurt has a really good epiphany bridge where he was working at a group practice and he got this idea. He wanted to own his own practice. He had this epiphany and he made the jump and bought a practice up in Montana. And now he's got a fee-for-service practice up in Montana. So he might tell you that he regrets the epiphany right now. He might say he loves it. But the point is that he's passionate about that. He has passion. He can speak to it. And it was a point he came to a crossroads, had the epiphany, made the change, got him to where he is now. So each of us needs to understand what that is, where that happened. Try to share that. If it fits in your story, definitely share it. Don't make one up. And the second thing is this, the secret number 8 is called the hero's journey that I talked a little bit about before. This hero's journey, Russell talks about this movie guru whose job was to break down basically what is successful storytelling in movies. And he broke it down to 14 different points that occur in a good story. And it's this hero's journey. And you can see it in Harry Potter. You can see it in Star Wars. You can pick something. You can find that this pattern evolves in any good storytelling. And if you go and you look at, and they did this across the board, whether it be Lord of the Rings or whatever, you will find this pattern over and over and over again. Again, it's outlined in the book much better than I can convey it right here. But the idea is that you should understand that journey. You should know, with you being the hero, how you got to where you are. Identify the players in that story. So I talked about the guide earlier, who's one of the players, but talk about those things. Talk about what the villain is. Again, go and read it so this makes sense, but there should be a villain in your story. And the villain's not always a person. Sometimes it's something that's circumstances or something that's happened. But identify those things because that pushes the story along and it creates emotion for your story. It creates things that, again, they will resonate with others. So again, get the book, find those things, read those things to help you understand how to better tell your story. These are the 2 things that I identified that I think are really important in any storytelling. Also that Russell Brunson talks about them being important. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Reels versus long form video. First of all, is there anybody utilizing AI right now? But I know we use it quite a bit. Ryan loves AI. What's the name? Chat CBT, is that what it's called, Ryan?
Yeah, GPT.
GPT.
OpenAI.
I think I called it something that involves something completely different. Yeah, Chat GPT. Is anybody else utilizing AI?
Austin
We are using it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, MJ.
Oh, I was just saying Austin uses it a little bit, mostly to come up with like our monthly emails out to patients. And that, yeah, mostly for our communication tool with our current patients.
Just really quickly, why is he using it?
I think he feels like it gives them like better statistics quicker. It's just a way to utilize his time more efficiently.
100% agree. Jason, what were you going to say?
We're revamping our entire marketing platform towards an AI platform because I'm always the barrier to entry for every project that we have because of time. We've started with utilizing tools within the office, creating so we're using the chat GPT, but taking it into a video creator with voice automation and things like that. For example, we're creating like post-surgical videos that go over care instructions on what to do after a procedure, you know, what to expect going into a procedure. I can share one of the ones we've made with it, but basically we're using chat bots with video creators and voice automations to just create these videos. It's so much quicker, and it's been working really great. But can you hear me, Dan?
Yeah, I hear you well.
Okay, I'm going through a little canyon. I thought maybe you'd lose me, but it's been super effective because before and after a procedure, we send these info videos to our patients, and they're getting all the communication. You know, we do a lot of sedation, so it always requires, you know, after our phone calls and people calling with problems and questions after they come out of the sedation. And now, like, we just send these before and after, and they can refer back to them. So that's been pretty great. And now we're starting to utilize it in our branding and messaging, just so that my team can create any of the messaging we need, and it takes me out of the picture. So, you know, like we're using Pictory for our video automation, and they just have voiceovers that you can already choose from. So we're just picking a couple of those and using them for our digital assistant is what we're calling it. You know, that's basically what it says. I'm a digital assistant for
It's your
Pro
Jarvis.
Solutions Dental Group. And, yeah, Jarvis. But it's been great. We've just kind of started in that direction, but man, it just makes things happen so much quicker. You know, you can, once you get all your imaging and your branding, your logos and things loaded into it, you literally can create any messaging or video with your branding within like 30 minutes. It's fast. Yeah. And so it's been super helpful for us.
Yep. Our marketing team utilizes it pretty much nonstop. We're very similar to Jason's situation. I've just started dabbling in the voice stuff, which is the voice AI, which is super cool. If you haven't looked at it, it's amazing. So utilize AI. It will make your life so much easier than trying to do it on your own. It saves a lot of time, a lot of energy. It's not expensive. So utilize that. So talking about reels versus long form video. So reels or short form video are much better for social media. They need to be 60 seconds or less. And that does not include TikTok, which I'll talk about in part 3. But so again, you need to be able to tell your story very succinctly, very quickly, or different stories very quickly and easily. Long form should be reserved for YouTube, period. So this is instructional or educational content. This is honestly not the best place to tell your story. Nobody, you're going to have a hard time getting someone going to YouTube and go, I want to listen to how this dentist became a dentist, or whatever. But it's great for getting other content out there. And videos on YouTube are the fastest way to increase your search engine optimization. And it's free. So you're crazy not to do it. So you can do vlogs, you can do podcasts. Again, with brand storytelling, be careful here because make a short video. Don't do a long form video there. And you can upload videos to Google My Business for free. So if you haven't looked into that, check that out. It's a really easy way to do it. So reels, again, this is short form video. This format that I have here. This is from Russell Brunson. But you're going to see it if you talk to any marketing companies. They're always going to talk about this same framework of hook, story, 3 secrets, offer, a call to action. And that will then, you click on it, it takes you to a landing page. So this is the actual framework that you want to have when you do a reel or a short form video reel. Is you have your hook, your story, offer 3 secrets, offer, a call to action, and a landing page. Those 4 components are always going to be involved. You can also do stuff right, like cosmetic treatment, bruxism. These are just some ideas of some video content that you can create. But again, we talked a lot about the cosmetic stuff. You can maybe do an informational video on bruxism, something about Surex, crown people. Maybe people don't know that you've got the software that allows them and the tools at your office to be able to do a crown in one visit. implants are, I don't need to tell anybody, implants are huge right now, you know, and have been for a while. And getting into that market, I know some of you are interested in getting into the implants. How do I let people know? Bryce completely changed Bryce does a lot of implants, and he completely changed and wants to be doing more, excuse me, and changed his entire branding to push more implants and get it in front of more people. So this is a great way to do that. Just give an informational video on implants, maybe show some cases, that kind of thing. So this is why I was trying to keep it as close to an hour as I could. And so I just we're going to end it there for part 2. That's going to be our lead into part 3. Part 3, again, we're going to get into more of this stuff, but really get into the details of how the algorithms with Meta, how Google algorithms work, how they talk to each other, how all that stuff can be utilized, and how we can capture that for, again, a low investment. So now what we've covered so far is finding our identity, really doing a good job of figuring out the what. And now we talked about the why. So we have our strategy. Now we have that bridge to campaigns. In part 3, we're going to start talking about the actual marketing campaigns themselves. So with that in mind, do you guys have any questions, comments, or ideas that you want to discuss before we sign off?
Dan, I just say that I think the short video on our website that kind of tells your and Jared's stories of kind of why you got into dentistry. I think those are great examples of, you know, telling the story and the why too, if they want to check those out. So
we have one for EA too. If you go onto our EA website, we have a video there about, you know, how EA came to be. It tells that story. It also, we have a great story I talked about earlier about Jared's, on the landing page is Jared's story about really the impetus of EA. So go check those out for some examples. Please take a look at those. Jason's had video content on his website for a long time. As long as I've known him, he's had it. And he said he's had it for, I don't know, Jason, how long have you been running that video content on your homepage?
Oh man, probably 10 years or better.
And it's impactful. I mean, as soon as you land on that, you start to see it. So there's some examples.
It's a much younger, less gray, more hair version of myself. I probably needs to be updated.
Less seasoned, Jason.
Yeah, less seasoned. I'm less salty in that one.
Hey, Dan, I got a question for you.
Fire away.
In the chat, I stuck a photo of an ad that's going to be on the shopping carts at the local Albertsons and the local Kroger, like any grocery store that my ex-wife might shop at. And I stuck the ad in our chat. So let me know what you think of like the story and the branding, what impression that gives you. These are going to get installed on the grocery carts in like 1 month.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. Can everybody see that? Okay, this is awesome. So he's telling a story here. He's a super nice dude. Can everyone see that? Give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Okay, good. So I would argue, I don't know any of the other dentists in Lake Worth. So you could have put first funniest dentist in Lake Worth.
There's some really funny ones. I don't want to go too high.
That is awesome. Yeah. Nate's been really good at branding. He's got he wears, I think you've got one on right now, Nate. You've got a Bemis Family Dental shirt on as we speak, I think, right? There it is, a blue one.
Yeah.
But this is, I love what Nate does. Nate's really good at promoting his practices. And you know what? Everything on here, I can't speak to the third funniest dentist, but he's a super nice dude. So there you go. I think this is awesome. So what happens when your ex-wife sees it, Nate?
No, I don't actually care. I don't actually care about that. But I have been getting so many people that have been commenting. The old ad just said implants, cosmetics, emergencies, stuff like that. But nobody like the ad, I don't know if it stood out. So I'm trying to make it like stand out more. But I have had people who've been telling me like, oh, I saw you on Google. I've seen you on the ads on the shopping carts because it's been there for 2 years. But I was wanting something that like stood out so it would be like, whoa, I read this. I read the ad. It stayed in their head better, you know?
So Nate, there's obviously some genius in this. If you guys haven't had an opportunity to sit down and talk with Nate, I highly encourage you to do it. Nate's a brilliant guy. And some of the genius that stands out to me in this, obviously, is that it's something that's going to generate conversation. Think about it. You go to the grocery store, you come back, you see your friends. Did you guys see that Dennis? And it'll probably go something. Did you see that Dennis ad at the grocery store? It is so funny. Like, and then it's going to generate discussion about who was it? It's like, Bemis, I think, and that's going to create word of mouth and will be a self-perpetuating ad through word of mouth. I think it's genius, Nate. I love it. I freaking love it.
Very cool. I'd be sad if you guys didn't like it.
We're waiting for the one that's natesfeet.com though.
Yeah.
I've been getting more hits on that lately. I do not know why, but it's been coming up. Okay, if you edit the recording, take that out.
I'm gonna say I love it. Your super duper expletives are the best.
Well, so out here in Texas, we've got this place called Mint Dentistry, and they have billboards all over DFW that say, like, I make sexy teeth, and it's got a picture of a dentist. And then now they've got hygienist pictures up there, and it says, I clean sexy teeth. And it's just kind of funny, and it's just different, and it's just like, it stands out to people because of the word sexy. Right. But it's like, that's not necessarily the brand I want to copy, but that idea it's unique and it stands out.
Yeah, for sure. That's without question.
Yeah, but if you've got a billboard like that, you've got to start wearing a gold chain. If you're the sexy guy, and you might need a little hair glued on your chest.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh, I love it. All right, cool guys. I'm gonna cut us off here. We can keep the conversation going. Please join us for the part 3. If you have any more questions or comments or any ideas, let's keep it going on the text feed in the thread. Appreciate you guys tuning in for this. Appreciate the participation, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
That was good.
Guys.